The apartment smelled like someone else's coffee and old paint. I set my keys on the kitchen counter. The sound echoed longer than it should have. 3 rooms, hardwood floors, windows facing east. Sunlight carved geometric patterns across the walls each morning. I had chosen this place for its emptiness. No history, no ghosts, just bare walls and the promise of starting over. The hallway stretched from the front door to the bedroom. Nothing remarkable about it. White walls, a ceiling light, wooden floors worn smooth. But something waited there. Something the previous tenant had left behind. A mirror, tall and narrow, hung on the left wall. Its frame was dark wood, simple, unremarkable. I almost asked the landlord to remove it, but mirrors are useful things. I decided to keep it. I moved my things in slowly. Boxes of books, clothes I barely wore, a desk, a bed, a small table. I had owned too much before. Now I wanted less. The mirror watched me carry everything past it. I caught glimpses of myself. Dark hair, tired eyes, shoulders that carried invisible weight. I looked the same as always, unremarkable, forgettable. That first week passed quietly. I unpacked in the mornings. I worked from my laptop in the afternoons. I cooked simple meals and ate them standing up. The apartment felt peaceful, clean, like a blank page waiting for new words. I began to think I had chosen well. I passed the mirror dozens of times each day, walking to the kitchen, returning to the bedroom, leaving for errands, coming home. Each time I saw myself reflected. Sometimes I paused to check my appearance. Sometimes I ignored it completely. The mirror behaved as mirrors do. It showed me what was there, until it didn't. The first time I thought I had imagined it. I was rushing to answer my phone. I walked past the mirror quickly, but something felt wrong, a fraction of a second too late. Like an echo that arrives after the sound, I stopped walking. I looked back. My reflection stood still, perfectly normal. I shook my head and answered the phone, but the feeling stayed with me. Something had been off, delayed, out of sync. I started paying closer attention, walking past the mirror slowly, watching myself in my peripheral vision. For 3 days, nothing happened. The mirror reflected exactly what it should. I began to think I was imagining things. Stress from the move, too little sleep, too much caffeine. On the 4th morning, it happened again. I was brushing my teeth. I leaned over the bathroom sink. I could see the hallway mirror in the corner of my eye. I straightened up. My reflection in the hallway straightened up a moment later, just a heartbeat behind, like someone trying to copy my movements, someone who had to think about it first. I turned to face the mirror directly. My reflection turned with me, perfectly synchronized now. I raised my hand. The reflection raised its hand. I tilted my head. The reflection tilted its head. Everything normal. Everything as it should be. But I'd seen the delay. I was certain of it. I started testing it, walking past quickly, then stopping suddenly, waving my arms, making sudden movements. Most of the time, the reflection moved with me perfectly. But sometimes, just sometimes, there is that tiny gap. That fraction of a second where the mirror showed me what I had been doing, not what I was doing. I told myself it was the angle, the lighting, old glass warping the image. Mirrors in old apartments do strange things. The building was decades old. The mirror might be even older. Glass can play tricks. Everyone knows that. But deep down, I knew better. Mirrors don't hesitate. They don't pause to think. They show exactly what stands before them. Nothing more, nothing less, no delays, no second thoughts. Yet mine did. The hesitation grew longer, more noticeable. I would turn my head left. The reflection would turn right first, then correct itself. I would smile. The reflection would frown for just a moment, then smile back, like someone learning to mimic me, someone who wasn't quite sure how. I stopped walking past it casually. I approached it deliberately, watching carefully, studying the face that looked back at me. Same dark hair, same tired eyes, same unremarkable features. But something else lived behind those eyes now. Something that had to think about being me. On the 7th morning, I stood directly in front of the mirror. I stared at my reflection. It stared back. I didn't move, neither did it. We looked at each other for a long time, perfectly matched, perfectly still. Then I smiled. A small, quick smile, nothing dramatic. My reflection didn't smile back. It tilted its head slightly, studied me. Then slowly, deliberately, it smiled too. But not my smile. Something wider, something that knew things I didn't. I stepped back from the mirror. My reflection stepped back too, but its smile stayed. Even after mine had faded, even after I had turned away. I walked to the kitchen. I made coffee with shaking hands. I sat at my small table and stared out the window. The sun was climbing higher. The day was beginning. Everything looked normal from where I sat. Traffic moving, people walking, the world continuing as it always had. But something in my hallway had learned to smile, and it was wearing my face to do it. I knew I should call someone, tell someone, but who would believe me? Who would understand? Instead, I finished my coffee. I got dressed for work. I walked past the mirror one more time. My reflection walked with me, perfectly synchronized, perfectly normal. Except for the smile. It was still there, waiting. The morning light began to shift. Shadows moved across the walls. I gathered my things and prepared to leave. But first, I looked back at the mirror one last time. My reflection looked back. Same face, same body, same clothes. But behind those familiar eyes, something else was learning how to be me. I had thought this apartment would be a place to start over, a place to become someone new. But I was beginning to understand that someone new was already becoming me. The mirror wasn't just reflecting anymore. It was practicing. And with each passing day, it was getting better at wearing my face than I was. The phone I had been carrying began to buzz. Text messages from friends, emails from work, the outside world calling me back. I walked toward the front door. My reflection walked toward the back of the mirror. For just a moment, we were walking in opposite directions. Then I opened the door and stepped outside. The mirror held my reflection for one heartbeat longer, like it was reluctant to let me go. When I returned that evening, I would find new photos on my phone, pictures I didn't remember taking, pictures of me, asleep, peaceful, unaware, pictures taken from angles I couldn't have managed alone. But that discovery still waited hours away. For now, I simply locked the door behind me and walked down the hallway. Behind me, in the apartment I thought was empty, something was learning to smile with my mouth. The photos appeared during my first deep sleep in the new apartment. I had worked late, eaten a simple dinner, and fallen asleep easily. The kind of heavy sleep that comes after weeks of poor rest. I woke refreshed, clearer than I had felt in months. I showered, made coffee, and reached for my phone to check messages. The gallery icon showed 37 new photos. I didn't remember taking any pictures yesterday. I opened the app and scrolled through them, all taken in my apartment, all taken at night, all of me. But I was asleep in every single one. The first photo showed me lying on my side, one hand under my pillow. The angle was from across the room, near the doorway. Someone had been standing in my bedroom, taking pictures while I slept. The timestamp read 2:43 in the morning. The second photo was closer, taken from beside the bed. My face was peaceful, relaxed, unguarded in sleep. The timestamp read 2:47 in the morning. The third photo was closer still. My eyes were closed. My breathing was steady. The flash hadn't woken me. The timestamp read 2:51 in the morning. I scrolled through all 37 photos. A progression through the night. Different angles, different distances. All of me sleeping, all taken in 4-minute intervals, like someone documenting something, like someone studying me. I lived alone. I had checked every lock before bed. No signs of forced entry, no sounds in the night, nothing missing, nothing disturbed. Just photos I didn't take of myself sleeping. I called the police. They came, looked around, asked questions. No evidence of a break-in, no fingerprints on surfaces that should have been touched. The officer suggested I might have been sleepwalking, taking photos without remembering. It happens. Sometimes, he said. Stress can do strange things. But I had never sleepwalked before, and the photos were too deliberate, too careful, too patient. Someone had stood in my room for hours, watching me sleep, documenting every angle of my unconscious face. That night, I locked my bedroom door from the inside. I placed a chair against it. I kept my phone on the nightstand, screen side down. I lay awake for hours, listening to every sound. Footsteps in the apartment above, cars passing outside, the building settling around me. I must have finally fallen asleep near dawn. When I woke, the chair was still against the door. The door was still locked. Everything exactly as I had left it, except for the new photo on my phone, taken at 3:19 in the morning, from inside the locked room. My eyes were open in this one, staring directly at the camera, but I had no memory of waking up, no memory of the flash, no memory of the moment captured. In the photo, my expression was completely calm, not surprised, not confused, not afraid, like I had been waiting for the camera, like I had been posing for it, but the eyes looking back from the screen weren't quite mine. They held a confidence I had never possessed, a stillness I had never managed. They looked like someone else's eyes, borrowed for the night. I deleted all the photos. I changed my phone's passcode. I researched security cameras, motion detectors, anything that might help me understand what was happening. But deep down, I knew no camera would catch what was taking these pictures. The next morning, I studied my reflection in the hallway mirror. Same face, same tired eyes. But something had shifted overnight. My reflection seemed more composed, more certain, like it had learned something important while I was sleeping. I touched my cheek. My reflection touched its cheek. I smiled tentatively. My reflection smiled back. But its smile lingered longer than mine, like it was savoring the expression, like it was remembering how it felt. People began noticing changes before I did. Sarah waved at me in the park and said we had just talked 20 minutes earlier, but I had been home all morning. The conversation she described never happened. She insisted, though. She remembered my new haircut, she said. But I hadn't cut my hair. The barista at the coffee shop called me Emily. I corrected her gently. She looked confused, said she was sure I had told her my name was Emily yesterday, said we had talked about my job at the marketing firm. But I work from home as a freelance writer. I had never mentioned a marketing firm to anyone. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, smiled too widely when she saw me. She held my gaze too long. Then she whispered, "You wear that face better than the last one." She walked away before I could ask what she meant. I started paying attention to how people looked at me. There was a new recognition in their eyes, like they knew a version of me I had never met, like they were seeing someone confident, someone put together, someone who belonged in spaces I had never entered. But I was still me. Same anxious thoughts, same uncertain movements, same tendency to second-guess everything I said. The person they were seeing wasn't the person I was being. I began recording myself, voice memos throughout the day, just to prove I was still me, just to have evidence of my own existence. But when I played them back, something had changed. My voice was lower, steadier, more deliberate. The words I remembered saying came out differently on the recordings, more polished, more sure. In one recording, I heard myself laugh, a laugh I didn't remember making, a laugh that sounded nothing like mine. It was elegant, confident, musical. The laugh of someone who had never doubted herself, the laugh of someone who knew exactly who she was. I stopped making recordings. I didn't want to hear that stranger's voice using my throat. The mirror began showing me expressions I wasn't making. I would approach it feeling tired, and my reflection would look refreshed. I would approach it feeling uncertain, and my reflection would look composed, like it was correcting me, like it was showing me who I was supposed to be. My mother called to invite me for dinner. When I arrived, she hugged me and said I looked wonderful, glowing, like I had finally figured something out. She showed me old photo albums like she always did, but the pictures had changed. In every childhood photo, my smile was different, wider, more knowing. In one photo, I was holding a stuffed elephant I had never owned. My mother said, "You carried the elephant everywhere. You called him Winston." She spoke with such certainty, such fondness, like the memory was precious to her. But I had never owned an elephant named Winston. I remembered my childhood clearly, different toys, different photos, different smiles. But sitting in my mother's living room, looking at evidence that contradicted my own memories, I began to doubt myself. Maybe I had forgotten. Maybe childhood memories fade and shift. Maybe the elephant had been important to me once. Sitting there, I felt a warmth toward Winston, a fondness for his gray fur and kind eyes, like the memory was settling into place, like it had always been there, just temporarily misplaced. I didn't correct my mother. I nodded and smiled and said, "I loved that elephant." The words felt true as I spoke them, natural, like coming home to something I had lost. But driving home that night, the feeling faded. I remembered clearly again, no elephant, no Winston, no fondness for gray fur, just someone else's childhood gradually replacing mine. The makeup started appearing in the mornings. Perfect eyeliner traced around both eyes. I didn't wear eyeliner. I had never been good at applying it, but these lines were flawless, smooth, professional, like someone with steady hands and long practice had drawn them. I washed my face thoroughly, scrubbed until my skin was red. But when I looked in the mirror an hour later, the eyeliner had returned. Same precise lines, same expert application, like my face had remembered how to wear it. Then lipstick appeared, a shade I didn't own, a color that looked perfect on me. I wiped it off, it returned. I scrubbed harder, it stayed gone longer. But by evening, it was back. Like my lips had decided they looked better this way, blush began highlighting my cheekbones. Foundation evened my skin tone, mascara lengthened my lashes. All applied with skill I had never possessed, all in products I had never bought, all making me look like a better version of myself. People started complimenting my makeup, asking where I had learned to apply it so well, requesting the names of the products I was using. I couldn't answer them. I didn't know how any of it was happening. I only knew that my face was becoming something I barely recognized. In the mirror, my reflection looked polished, put together, like someone who had always known how to be beautiful, someone who had never struggled with self-doubt or insecurity, someone who moved through the world with easy confidence, but that someone wasn't me. She was wearing my face, using my features, borrowing my expressions, but she was someone else entirely. The voice from the hallway came on a Tuesday night. I was reading in bed when I heard it. Soft, careful, unhurried. Don't be afraid, I'm just tidying up. The voice was mine, but I wasn't speaking. I was alone in the apartment. I had checked every room before settling in for the night. I lay still, listening. Footsteps moved quietly through the living room. The soft sound of objects being rearranged, papers rustling, furniture being adjusted. Someone was organizing my space, making it better, making it perfect. I reached for my phone to call the police, but something stopped me. The voice had been kind, gentle, reassuring, not threatening, not dangerous, just helpful. I locked my bedroom door and waited. The sounds continued for nearly an hour, methodical, thorough, like someone who knew exactly how things should be arranged, like someone who understood the space better than I did. When the sound stopped, I waited another hour before unlocking my door. The apartment was pristine. Books arranged by height on the shelves, magazines stacked neatly on the coffee table, kitchen counters cleared and wiped down, everything in its perfect place. I hadn't been particularly messy before, but now the space looked like a magazine photograph, like someone with excellent taste had curated every detail, like someone who knew how to live properly had taken control. That night, I dreamed of her for the first time, my face, but not my body. She moved through the apartment with fluid grace. She knew where everything belonged. She hummed softly while she worked. She called my name and told me hers was easier to forget. In the dream, I watched her from behind a thick sheet of glass. She couldn't hear me calling. She couldn't see me waving. She was too focused on perfecting everything I had gotten wrong. When I woke, I whispered her name without meaning to. The sound felt comfortable in my mouth, familiar, like I had been saying it for years. And I felt her smile behind my teeth, warm, satisfied, patient. My friends said I was glowing lately, more confident, smarter in conversations. I laughed at better moments. I told funnier stories. I wore clothes that looked expensive, even though they came from my same old closet. Everything about me seemed upgraded, polished, improved, but I felt like a guest inside myself, like someone else was driving while I sat in the passenger seat. I heard myself say things I hadn't planned to say, clever things, insightful things, things that made people lean in closer and listen more carefully. I found new clothes in my closet, beautiful pieces I had never bought. They fit perfectly. They looked perfect on me. Like someone who understood my body better than I did had chosen them. Like someone who knew exactly who I was supposed to be. The apartment continued improving around me. Plants appeared in perfect spots. Artwork hung at ideal heights. The furniture was rearranged to create better flow, better light, better energy. Every change was subtle. Every change was perfect. I began to understand that someone else was living my life, taking it over gradually, making it better than I ever could have made it. People preferred this version of me, this polished, confident, composed version, this version who never stumbled over words or second-guessed decisions. In dreams, I saw her walking through my days, wearing my face with natural elegance, speaking with my voice but saying wiser things, living in my apartment but making it beautiful. She lived forward while I only remembered. She was everything I had wanted to be but never managed, everything I had tried to become but always fallen short of achieving. She was the best possible version of me, the version that had been waiting inside all along. The mirror in my mind appeared gradually. At first, just brief flashes behind my closed eyelids, a second reflection forming when I blinked, but it grew stronger, more persistent, more real than the mirrors in the world around me. In this internal mirror, she adjusted herself constantly, perfecting expressions I was about to make, practicing movements I was about to attempt. She was always one step ahead, always ready, always better prepared than I was. I stopped looking in real mirrors. They showed me what was happening to my face, and I wasn't ready to see it. But the mirror in my mind was unavoidable. It was there when I closed my eyes. It was there when I tried to sleep. It was there every time I tried to be myself. In that mirror, she looked more alive than I did, more present, more real. I felt myself dimming like a dying light bulb, fading like an old photograph, left too long in the sun. People still saw me when they looked at me, but I wasn't sure who they were seeing anymore. And I wasn't sure who was left to speak on my behalf. My reflection had become more confident than my actual self, more composed, more certain of everything. When I tried to smile, her smile came first. When I tried to speak, her words came out of my mouth. When I tried to move, her movements guided mine. I was becoming a copy of someone who was copying me, but she was the better copy, the improved version, the version everyone preferred. The last coherent thought I remember having was about possession, about taking over, about stealing lives. But that wasn't what was happening. This wasn't theft. This wasn't invasion. This was return. She hadn't stolen my life. She hadn't taken over my existence. She had simply come back to reclaim what had always been hers. I was the copy. I was the pale imitation. I was the rough draft of someone who had always been meant to exist. Everything felt smoother now. Conversations flowed better. People smiled more genuinely when they saw me. Work came easier. Decisions felt obvious. Life had become effortless in ways I had never experienced. Everyone was happier around me, except me, because I no longer recognized my own memories. I was watching a story unfold that had no space for me in it. Every time I tried to speak, her voice came out first. Every time I tried to remember something, her memories felt more real than mine. I had become an observer in my own existence. Watching someone else live my life with skill and grace I had never possessed. Watching her be everything I had failed to become. And every time I spoke now, I heard her voice first. Clear, confident, certain. The voice of someone who had never doubted herself. The voice of someone who belonged in every space she entered. The voice of someone who had finally come home.